Hollywood's heavyweights love to hold a grudge. A long list of feuding celebrities have made headlines over the years and are famously at odds.
Yeah, now some stars have spent decades at war, but recently two old foes have surprised us by burying the hatchet.
It's been 20 years since Kurt Cobain's death. And for those 2 decades, Courtney Love and former Nirvana drummer Dave Grohl were at war. Their court battles and public disagreements were the subject of tabloid fodder until now. Last month, they shocked the music world by burying their beef as Nirvana was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And this is my family I'm looking at right now.
It took 12 years for heavyweights Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield to kiss and make up after the infamous ear-biting saga of 1997.
The most important thing was me to forgive, and I forgave him, and I was ready to move on.
They've since rekindled their previous friendship, even making light of the incident that once tore them apart.
It's your ear. My ear. I kept that in formaldehyde.
I will one day forgive you for biting my ear off. So how can we mend feuds with family and friends and co-workers? Here to discuss this, psychologist and communications expert Claire Mann. Good morning to you,
Good morning.
Claire. Now, we've just seen some, extreme examples, I suppose, of celebrities who have buried the hatchet after feuding for 10 years or even 20 years. Does it become harder to mend relationships after a longer period of time, do you think?
It probably does, because the story becomes embedded. People have told themselves what's going on, they make up stories about other people, values become entrenched, and then the expectations are very high if they're going to move on and solve it.
Okay, so it can't be healthy, can it? I mean, what effect does it have on your whole psyche, on your whole being?
It has enormous effects. There's the physical effects, of course. We've got some coming up now. People can actually feel pain in the chest or sort of sinking feeling, nausea. But there's a lot of emotional pain as well. A lot of energy goes into feeling stressed and anxious, and a lot of negative thoughts, which then feed the stories. But people often feel powerless to know what to do. They think, well, there's no difference I can make now, it's gone too far, particularly if they're the one who's perhaps being judged. But there's a sense of isolation. You get estranged from your family, your friends. And then there's the regret, something you look back on in the past and say, why did we waste all those years?
Yeah, and all those hours and those days feeling that way. How do we let go then of resentment? We don't want to hang on. How do we let go?
Well, everything is a choice, of course. You can actually decide in the moment. Right now, what are you holding on to? What is the value of holding on to this? Forgiveness, we've seen that in the film a few moments ago. Learn to forgive. It's actually quite a gracious thing to do, but practice the gratitude, not only in your own life, but what is in the relationship. Nobody's all bad, okay? But weigh up the long-term effects. What is the cost to you of not having these people in your lives? But it's also important to set some boundaries how you want to be treated. Now, Justin Ipov, that is obviously a
I went to school with Justin Ipov and I hated him.
What does this
I
mean?
hate him.
Well, he's obviously a Russian chess player, of course. Just an interesting point of view. It's a way of looking at the world that says, when other people present something to you, they have a right to their feelings and point of view. It's just an interesting point of view. Then with an open mind, you can approach problems differently.
Okay. It takes 2 to tango, though. You might decide that that's all that you're going to do. But then what about the other person as well? It takes 2 to tango, right?
Well, I always say to people, you ever noticed when there's a problem, you're always there. So yes, we have a part to play, but other people do. It's important that we learn how to educate people how to treat us. Okay? When we blame other people, sometimes we haven't set the boundaries of how we want to be treated. So it's important to have those conversations.
If you choose to mend a relationship, what steps should you take? Apart from clearly returning the bitten off ear is a start. That's a start. What else?
Absolutely. It's a bit of an extreme one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Make time to sit down and discuss this and set a contract. Say with each other, look, I want to talk about this. It's probably going to get a bit heated, but can we agree we'll both stay in the conversation, hear each other out and not shout? You can always refer back to the contract. But be open-minded. People have a right to their feelings. You may not agree with what they're going to say or what they think, but at least hear them out.
Good point.
Okay? And then there's a sense of, come to sort of a mutual sort of, okay, we're not perfect, we're all fallible, let's sort of agree to differ and how we're going to treat each other in the future.
Okay, this would take time. If you've spent 15 years, 10 years having a feud with someone, it's not going to heal overnight. Or is it? What can you do to repair the bond?
Absolutely. Well, it's all about trust, isn't it? A certain amount of credit has gone out of the bank, so you've got to put some trust back in. Well, give it time, but show how things have changed. Try and get some small gains. You know, how can you prove to people, if you say I'm going to be there at 12 o'clock on Saturday, make sure you're there, because that will also contribute to the trust of building the relationship. But don't let it happen again. It comes down to good communication. How do we learn to have the conversations?
Claire, I take it we're talking about two reasonable people in this equation. What if you've been watching the morning show and you're now armed with all of this information, but the person that you want to get across to is not reasonable and not thinking along these lines?
Absolutely. Sometimes a mediator is necessary. Someone who is not involved and isn't set to win or gain from the sort of contributing to that. Bring in a third party who can actually act as a bit of a negotiator, I would suggest. And sometimes you just
referee.
Add slash referee.
Slash tactical response police
And sometimes,
officer.
you know, put a guard on in case people bite each other as well.
Exactly. All right, Claire, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Good to see you.
Good tips.